Okay guys, so we looked at simple interest the other day, the idea of gaining money on money that you save or having to pay extra money on money that you borrow. And we're going on to look at compound interest today. Now that's a little bit more complex than simple interest, but it's more realistic. It tends to be what happens more in the everyday world. Basic interest or simple interest is pretty rare. This compound interest is much more common. Basically, the idea of compound interest is that rather than just getting interest on what you pay at the beginning, you get interest on what's left at the end of every year or at the end of every month. Okay, so let's say you start with $300. If you have $400 by the end of the year, the amount of interest you get will go up. If you have $200 at the end of the year, the interest you get will go down. So it varies depending on what's happening with your money. Okay. So I've just put a bit there about that. It's a bit more complex, but it's more realistic. And yeah, it involves calculating based on how much you have at the end of each year or the end of each month. It's a little bit more complicated if you do it at the end of each month. So for this, we're just going to look at compound interest done at the end of each year. Okay. So what this comes down to is we just use the formula, very similar to basic interest. We do the principal, so that's the amount you borrow or save, times the interest rate, divide by 100. You keep your interest rate as a percentage, so you don't need to change it to a decimal like we were doing the other time. So just the principal times the interest rate divided by 100. And then, this is really important, you add your answer to the original amount. Okay? And then you do that as many times as you need to. So if you're doing compound interest over 3 years, let's say, or doing it over 2 years, let's say, we'll keep it simple. You do this, okay? And then whatever number this calculation gives you, you add it to the original amount you had. And then you do the calculation again, but you change your original amount to what you had at the end of the first year, okay? And if you're doing it for a third year, you just do that another time, okay? So if that's not making much sense to you, I've got a worked example here that you can have a look at. So the example is you invest $300 at 8% compound interest per annum over 2 years. How much do you have after the 2 years? Okay? So the first thing I want to do is we've got the formula, the principal times the interest rate divided by 100. Our principal was 300 and our interest rate was 8. So 300 times 8 divided by 100 gives me $24. So I add that to the original amount. 24 plus 300 gives me 324. So that's how much I have at the end of year one, $324. Okay? Then we calculate 324 times 8 divided by 100. So what we're doing here is it's basically the same formula as this, but instead of 300, we're putting in 324 because that's what we had at the end of year one. Anyway, that gives us, as you can see over here, $25.92. So that's the interest we get in year two. And then we add that to the $324, giving $349.92. So that means that overall, after the 2 years, the $300 has become $349.92, just under $350, which is a pretty good return. So just going through it one more time, we put it into the formula, we get the interest from that, we add it to the original amount, we then do the formula again using the sum of adding the interest to the original amount. That gives us the answer. And if we're doing a third year, we just do the same thing again, this time using this number in the formula, this number here. Okay? And you're going to try that now with doing it for 3 years, okay? So that's the question there. You invest $50 at 10% compound interest over 3 years. How much do you have at the end of those 3 years, okay? And I've summed it up as 6 steps that I'll show you through shortly, but I recommend that you now pause the video and have a go at answering this, and then I'll go through step by step how to answer it, okay? So for step 1, you wanted to do the 50 times 10 divide by 100, okay? So it was a 10% interest rate, $50 principal, so 50 times 10 divide by 100, giving $5. For step 2, we add that to the original amount. So 50 plus 5 gives us $55. So that's how much we have at the end of year 1, okay? So that $55 is now going to go into the equation. So for step 3, we do 55 times 10 divided by 100, which now gives us $5.50. For step 4, we're going to add that $5.50 to the $55. So that gives us $60.50 at the end of year 2. And then for step 5, we could take that $60.50 and we put it into the formula. So 60.5 times 10 divided by 100 gives $6.05. And then finally, we just add that to what we had. And that overall gives us $66.55, okay? So over 3 years, the $50 through compound interest became $66.55, so rising by quite an amount, okay? So that's the basic idea of compound interest. So it's not just taking into account the money you have at the beginning of the loan or the saving, it takes into account how that money changes over the years, okay? So you have some questions based on that now. I'll also put some questions on simple interest in there if you're struggling with compound interest a little bit. But give it a go, have a look over the worked examples again, and do your best. Okay, thank you.